Welcome back to the Williams Elleby Howard Easter YouTube channel. I'm Joel and this is Jared. Today we're going to talk all about depositions. What are they? Why do we take them? What's the purpose? How do we use them as far as the case goes and when we're going through discovery and getting ready for trial and things like that? So let's start with the very basics of what a deposition is in a personal injury case, Jared. So just tell us what it is.
So a deposition is when an attorney asks questions of a witness or a party in the case under oath so that it's put on the record with a court reporter. They type everything out as you're talking, and that is just kind of the chance for the attorney to put into the record what transpired or what the testimony would be from that witness or party in the case.
Yeah, and there's no judge, there's no jury there, but it's essentially the same thing as if you were testifying at trial, except you can ask more questions as the attorney. The rules of evidence will limit what we can ask at trial, and it will limit what the witnesses can say, but we're allowed during depositions to ask about things that might not necessarily be admissible at the trial of the case if it may help us discover information that will lead to finding other evidence that is admissible. So a lot of times when we're sitting in depositions with our clients, or if we're taking the deposition of the defendant in a case, people may wonder, like, well, why do they care about this? Well, we may not care about that specifically, but we may want to know the answer to question A so we can discover whether there's other information over here that we don't already know about.
Yeah, and it can lead to, a lot of times you'd be surprised how an innocuous question can lead an attorney down a road to get to information that would be admissible that wouldn't have come out otherwise along the way.
So when do depositions take place? And the answer to that question is almost never before a lawsuit has been filed. But once a official lawsuit has been filed in a court, you will eventually end up in what we call the discovery phase in 95% of courts. Except there's some exceptions like small claims courts where you can't do them and things like that. But in most personal injury cases, you're going to get into the deposition phase of the case during what we call discovery. And that's where we exchange documents, information. We get to question the other person, the other side's witnesses. They get to question our clients. And it happens during that time frame. And the setting is usually at a lawyer's office or a court reporter's office where there's a court reporter, there's a lawyer for all the parties. Sometimes there's multiple parties. Sometimes there's a videographer that's going to record it. And nowadays, sometimes these depositions take place by Zoom. So you may be sitting in your living room or at your lawyer's office in front of a computer, and the lawyer that's asking you questions may be in front of their computer, which is super helpful to us sometimes, especially if the witness that we need to ask questions for lives across the country or a long ways off. It helps save time of travel. It helps save our clients money from not having to pay for us to get on an airplane and fly across the country. We can sit there in our office and do that. And it also saves money if the deposition is videotaped, because you can just hit that record button on Zoom, and that's a lot cheaper than paying a person to bring in a bunch of videography equipment. So that's when it takes place. But how do we use depositions in a lawsuit?
I feel like there's a lot of different uses. You know, at kind of its base, it's a chance to figure out what everybody's testimony is going to be. You know, contrary to I think what a lot of people or what you see on TV, you know, when a case goes to trial, there's rarely a lot of surprises. Generally, I don't think any of us want surprises when we get to trial. We want to know before we ask a question in the trial, we want to know what that answer is going to be beforehand. Surprises, sometimes they're good, but usually not. So I think first and foremost, a deposition works to just get the facts out there, get it in the record, have a chance to ask everyone, you know, what happened, who was involved, are we missing any parties? You know, for our clients, it's a chance for the defense to learn about their medical history and for our clients to tell the story about what happened. You know, if it's a disputed liability, who caused the wreck, that's a chance for, you know, to learn the story, so to speak, as to what each client's going to say happened. And it's really that beginning stage to put everybody on the record and start to figure out what's there. It also serves a good purpose to find new information. You know, sometimes, as many times as we talk to a client or a witness, when the lights come on in a deposition, all of a sudden it triggers a memory, or a question gets asked and we learn about a witness that we didn't know about, or a medical provider, or an injury. So it's a way to kind of tell the story, but also probe for new information as well.
Yeah, I really like it because there's one tool that we have in discovery. It's called interrogatories, and those are just written questions that you send off to the other side. The answers are usually drafted by the lawyer based upon information that their client gives them, but they're drafted and formatted by the lawyer, and the lawyer gets to do all these objections. But at a deposition, the lawyer is very limited. That the lawyer for the person who's being deposed is very limited in what they can actually object to and how much they can intervene. And so you, more often than not, you get a more accurate story and a more encompassing story if you know how to ask the right questions, if you know how to have a back and forth conversation with the witness. And sometimes that means, being good cop. Sometimes it means being bad cop. Sometimes it's somewhere in between. But you don't have the lawyer filtering the information. It comes directly from the witness's mouth. And I mean, I love the show Suits. I think it's hilarious. I enjoy it. The only thing, and which is weird because normally I don't like lawyer TV shows because they're so unrealistic, but the only thing in Suits that drives me up the wall is they set these depositions up, and then they all go into this big fancy boardroom, and there's one witness there, and they ask, the person that's asking the question just doesn't even swear in the witness, just stands up and pounds on the table and asks like 2 questions, and then the other lawyer goes, "This is over, we're out of here." That's entertaining. That's not even close to what happens.
It rarely happens, but it does happen.
Yeah, I've been practicing law almost 20 years, and that's never happened to me. I mean, I've had to threaten to walk out before because the other lawyer was being such a pompous a-hole. But
it's usually not productive. Like, the goal of a deposition is to learn something. And I think more nuanced about a deposition is, and I think the defense bar and insurance companies use this a lot, probably more than we do, but I think we do it too, is the deposition is the moment where you kind of get to see how a party, mainly with the parties involved, how a defendant or a plaintiff, how they're going to perform under pressure when they're asking questions. Ultimately we go to a jury trial, and the jury has to relate to our client or the other side. They've got to relate to the parties. If we're going to go in and ask for a bunch of money for an injury, the jury better believe that, our client, Ms. Jones, is injured. A deposition is a good time for you to kind of figure out your client's true colors, because when they start getting asked questions, are they going to lie? Are they going to be truthful? Does the witness get caught in a lie in the deposition, or do they just blow up? Or is it easy to press their buttons? And I think from a defense perspective, if our clients are short fused and they blow up easily, they love that, and they want to know that. They want to tell the insurance company that, because it's like, hey, maybe we should try this case, because this person's not likable. They're not going to relate to the jury. But on the flip side, when we have that deposition and they talk to our client and it's very emotional, everybody's been in those depositions where tears are shed. It's an emotional situation. The defense attorney's going back to the insurance company saying, we don't want to try this. When those tears happen and the jury sees it and like everything's going that way, that's not good. So it's really a dress rehearsal for figuring out, as much as the answers. Usually we know most of the answers to the questions. It can go a long way in measuring how everyone's going to perform, under pressure when the lights are on.
Yeah, and you can tell authenticity when you see it. Like, it's you can't fake that, and especially at a trial, and it's difficult to fake it at a deposition for an attorney that's actually tuned in with what's going on. But another way that we use depositions is in motion practice. Sometimes the defense will take testimony, because it all gets printed out in this question answer booklet, and it's certified by the court reporter. And you can take that testimony and use it to support motions. Usually the defense will like to use it to support motions for summary judgment, meaning they're asking the court to throw the case out for some legal reason. We see that a lot in slip and fall cases, where the person may say, well, yeah, I walked past the hazard and I fell when I came back by. Well, in Georgia, if you've already traversed the hazard and then you come back by it and you knew the hazard was there, then you're going to lose. And so the defense, if you testified to that in your deposition, the defense will put that in the motion and tell the court, hey, Jared said that he walked right past this spill and saw it, went about what he was doing, came back and then fell in it. Well, he's going to lose. But that deposition testimony would be used to support the motion. Also, with expert witnesses, we usually depose every expert witness in a case, especially important in medical malpractice and products liability cases, but really all cases where an expert is named, because you want to flesh out their opinions and know exactly what they're going to say. But there are motions that we can file called Daubert motions in the legal community the purpose of those motions are to limit the testimony of the expert or exclude that expert's testimony entirely, so we can use the deposition transcripts to support a motion to limit or exclude an expert's testimony. And then finally, when we get to trial, we have that transcript. So if we've done a good job in the deposition by asking all the questions we need to ask, then we will have a really good idea of what the witness should be saying. And remember, the deposition's under oath, and so is the trial testimony. So if the person is on the stand at trial and they say something different than they said in previous sworn testimony at the deposition, then we can use that transcript, or if it's videoed, we can play the video to do what we call impeach the witness or discredit their testimony, so the jury sees that they said one thing in the deposition and they're saying something different at trial. And that can be devastating to either side's case when that happens, especially if it's a critical or important witness. But that's really the main things about why we take depositions, how they're taken, when they're taken. We have a couple of other videos on the channel that if you're being deposed and you need to find out like how you should conduct yourself and things like that, we've got a couple other videos. Just search our YouTube channel for depositions and one or two of them should pop up. But they would be helpful to you if you are looking for how you should prepare yourself getting ready for a deposition. But hopefully your lawyer is working with you to help you do that. But maybe those videos will be helpful too. So anything else on depositions, Jared?
No, I think that covers it.
All right. We appreciate you joining us and spending some time with us on this video. We hope it's been helpful to you. If so, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, press that little bell for alerts. Otherwise, we will see you in a couple of weeks with more personal injury videos.
As personal injury lawyers, we love what we do, and we're happy to share the experience we've gained in personal injury law. To help our family, friends, and YouTube subscribers, we've shared over 300 personal injury videos covering various injury topics. So if you'd like to gain more knowledge that may help protect yourself or a loved one when you're on the roads or out in public, check out our channel or view our playlist of shorts for quick personal injury tips.